So, welcome to this edition of Marriage Matters. It's just me this time, trying to send out some encouraging words for my single friends. I've been thinking about having this discussion or kind of doing this video for a couple weeks after I had a interesting conversation or a couple conversations with a friend about marriage and dating and being single and all those different things. So I just kind of wanted to send an encouraging word to women out there who are looking for Mr. Right and searching, for love and looking to be loved. So interesting enough, I'm going to share a little bit of my story of how I met my husband and some of the things that I went through while I was dating, as well as some of the pointers that I think, people should adhere to when you are looking, for love or looking to be married, especially for those who are starting to get up in age and, still may not be in a long-term relationship or a committed relationship and still feel like, it's a waiting game. So basically, my husband and I have been married almost 3 years. We've been together for about 4.5. And prior to meeting him, I never thought that I would get married. Personally, that was just me. I was just like, I'm crazy. I've lived around a lot of craziness. So marriage is just not for me. I wasn't looking to be married when I was. I think I was just, I wanted to be in a long-term relationship and eventually get married, but I just didn't think that I was ready. I knew I wasn't ready because I was just all over the place, just hadn't quite figured out everything that I needed to figure out in my life. And so, I dated here and there, gave my time to all of the wrong people. I wasn't as good of a serial dater probably as I could have been. I am very impatient. So if I would start talking to someone and they would get on my nerves within a few hours or a few days, I would be like, oh, he's not the one. That's it. And my friends were like, you cut people off so quick. And for me, I was that way because I didn't want to get attached to someone and eventually feel comfortable with them, but yet know that this wasn't going anywhere. Because a few times I did do that, it really kind of led to a broken heart, which takes time to heal. And then you're going through this whole process and you can miss out on the one who you really probably should be with. And so, I toyed back and forth with people who I should not have been dealing with, who weren't as invested in me as I was invested in them, who didn't care about me as I cared about them, even though in my mind, I felt like they were good candidates. And sometimes I think that's the issue. We create our little list of things that we want in a person. And then when we meet someone, we put that person next to our list and say, check, 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 check. And a lot of people can actually fit into the categories that we want, because a lot of the things that we're looking for aren't deeper than, having a job, having a degree, being ambitious, going somewhere. Like all of those things are very superficial. And really understanding now and being in a marriage, what it takes to be married and to stay married, I learned that checklist method wasn't a good method to use to find the person who eventually, you're going to be with forever. So right before I met my husband, and I may have shared this in other Marriage Matters, but, I was dealing with a couple of people, and finally I decided, okay, enough is enough. I had just moved back to DC. I felt like we were living the Sex and the City life. All of my girls had their apartments and everyone was working and we were just doing our thing. We just had an amazing summer. And I think that was really the summer that kind of changed my life. It really allowed me to just spend time with myself, spend time with my girls, live life, and really focus on things that I really needed to focus on, which was myself. Not just healing myself, but just having fun with myself, going home to myself by myself. And in those instances, I still dealt with people here and there, but nothing really serious. And so finally, I was talking to this guy who I really thought, he's a great candidate. He has, he fits into all these categories, check, 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 check. And in reality, he wasn't a good person for me. May have been a great person for someone else, but he wasn't a good person for me. And when I realized why just realizing it when I did. And I finally just said, okay, you're better than this. You're better than that. He's not really worth your time. And then that's when I was, I had met my husband. Well, me and my husband hadn't met, but we had been in the same place a few times. And he knew who I was, but I didn't know who he was. And eventually we ended up at a party. And then, life went on. But I say that to say, like, I wasn't looking for someone when I met my husband. And that's one of the things I think sometimes we do, is that we're looking and looking and looking and we don't find. And then when we don't find, we feel like, okay, maybe I'm looking wrong. And then you start looking elsewhere. Sometimes I feel like it's worth it not to look, to just live. And I've said this to someone and didn't get the best reaction. But at the end of the day, it's the truth. Sometimes you're looking, and what you're looking for with your eyes, it's not the love that you really need. You could be looking for something that is not really what God doesn't have, or he hasn't intended for you. So I say that to say, one, most of my single friends don't ask me for like advice, like how to meet your husband, blah, 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 because most of them do know my story and I'm very open about it. And they also were with me the first year of my marriage when we were just going through it. So they understand, like, it's not just this, I meet someone, we fall in love, get married, and life is perfect. And so they're searching and finding love, however they're finding love on their own. But most of my friends don't ask me. And I think that's the best way. I don't think that married people have the answer. Everyone's story is very different. Everyone's journey is very different. And everyone's truth is very different. So what someone could tell you as a married person, oh, you do this, you do that, you do this, and you'll find your husband, may be their truth, maybe their walk, maybe their journey, but that may not be what is right for you. And so it's sometimes good to stay away from asking married folks, because sometimes commentary from married folks comes with a sense of entitlement or a sense of judgment, like, okay, you want to be where I am, let me tell you how to get here. And in reality, no one really knows how they ended up where they were. Like, in a way, you may say, okay, this is how I ended up here, I did this and that. That's why I said this is what happened before I met my husband, but that wasn't my intention. That wasn't where I thought I was going. That's just where God led me. And because I was obedient at that moment, it really allowed me to be in the right place at the right time. And sometimes that's what it takes, being in the right place at the right time, and being obedient to, what you feel on the inside. Is this right for you? Does this feel good? Does this feel right? So, I really encourage people not to ask married people, how to find love, because you don't want to be discouraged, because what you may feel is right for you, or maybe be right for someone else, may not be right for you. So don't get wrapped up in someone else's love story, and that's one thing I really, really, really want to push. Don't get wrapped up in celebrities' love stories and your friends' love stories and people who romanticize love, because love isn't the Instagram moments, the Facebook posts and the anniversaries. Love is when times get tough and you want to leave, not leaving. Like, love is, being with that person literally through sickness and health, when they make mistakes, when they make bad decisions, when you're going through it and you're depressed, or something, you ventured out to do has failed. That's love. Like, love is not, I think, the romantic thing that we see on TV that is sensational and that doesn't last. It's not just the feeling that you feel when you're with someone who you really care about. Love is really a choice and a decision to be in a relationship. So, I say all that to kind of just say, be careful with who you ask for advice, because sometimes they'll take you down the wrong road. And sometimes, I think as single girlfriends, when we used to get together, we would have these long conversations and, slumber parties about relationships and boyfriends. And, I think some of that is good in a way, but you never want to get so caught up in a situation where you find yourself being bitter, where you're rehashing things and situations and relationships that you were previously in, that really didn't bring much to the table. Like, it's all good to talk about, oh, this happened, that happened, that's cool. But to be like, oh man, I wish I could go back and he was this and he was that, because all you're really going to remember is the good. You're not going to remember why you're not with that person anymore. So you'll be talking about this person and you'll romanticize being with someone who you don't need to be with and who you aren't with at the moment. But you'll kind of say, oh, I miss them. That conversation will spark this longing for someone. So sometimes be careful when you get around your single friends and start talking about relationships and start talking about love and marriage and what you want, because even they will steer you wrong. They will tell you, well, girl, if the single person now will say, do this, this, and this, and you'll find them. But yet they haven't found them. And sometimes that's what I'm saying. You're searching for something when in reality, if it's for you, you don't have to look for it. It will be there. It will show up. It will find you if it's your destiny. And that's what you have to accept, that what is for me is for me. And if God has that for me, he will put me in the place that I need to be. So stop creating situations that will put you in a place where you think you'll find a good quality mate, and just live and just be. And so sometimes, and this is a tricky one. I'm not saying don't ask yourself why you're not married, because introspection is good. You want to look at yourself and consistently work on yourself and constantly become a better person. But don't ask yourself so much where you begin to doubt yourself. If you know you are a good person, you are about your business, you look good, you take care of yourself, you have all of these qualities, don't keep asking yourself, why am I not married? Why am I not the one? Why doesn't he see the good in me? Why? You'll begin to ask yourself into a state of depression. You'll begin to find yourself in a place that's not worth being. You don't deserve the extra pressure of not feeling like you're good enough. And, you want to make sure that when you look in the mirror, when you go outside every day, that you're confident in who you are. Because the day that you're down and out about why you're not the one for someone who you don't need to be with could be the day that your soulmate passes you by because you're looking all down and out. People are attracted to light. People are attracted to confidence. People are attracted to someone who is smiling and really giving off a positive vibe. All the negativity that comes with why am I not married yet? Why am I not engaged? Everyone's getting engaged and I'm just here, sitting on the couch. Those comments, like, it's not cute. And so, as someone who is newly married still and still kind of newly in a relationship, I'm not far enough removed to where I forget what it was like to date. Tragic, especially in DC, New York, some of these major cities. It's really hard to date, I know. But I just don't want people to be so focused on the the romantics of a marriage. Like, one of the things I feel like I wish I would have done while I was single was just start my own business. Although I kind of had it in the works, I never really truly invested in it because I was just out doing so many other things. But once you get married, you are now not just yourself. You are one with another person who also has ideas about things that you may not feel like you have time for or you want to do. And so now, instead of you focusing completely on yourself, on your ideas, on your dreams, on your visions, on, your future, you're kind of trying to weigh and say, okay, who should go first? What should I do? What should we spend more our money on? There's all these decisions that have to be made that you don't have to worry about when you're single. So when you're single, do everything that you want to do. Start the business, travel as much as you can. And not that those things change or you can't do those things when you're married, but sometimes those things get delayed and things get pushed around when you get married and start having children, because now you're not only now focused on yourself or your spouse, now you focus on a whole another human life that you're trying to mold and give them the best of. So when you're single, and there, there's a whole biblical thing behind it. I don't want to be preaching, so I'm not, going to get into it, but when you're single, you can be and do so much more that sometimes married people and people with children cannot do. So take advantage of your state and be in it and live in it and really just truly appreciate where you are. And I think sometimes it's hard to appreciate where you are because when you're always looking to be somewhere else. Like, if I hadn't taken that summer, I think 2011 or whatever it was, 2012, and really invested in myself and in my friendships and in, it getting the most out of DC and Maryland and living in that area, I don't think that I could have been the whole person that I was. And when, my husband and I met, the first thing I said to him was, I'm happy. I'm in a very good place right now. I don't need the drama, the stress. I'm good. And I think when someone can see that you don't need them for money, or you don't need them to get to the next level, that you're not, trying to hustle them or use them, or, trying to use them as a trophy, because just as much as men use women as trophies, women use men as trophies. So when a man can see that you're a whole person, that you're completely happy without them, that you can do all of these things without them, it is attractive for some men. Most men do feel empowered by saying, okay, I don't have to carry her along. We can carry each other. I can still remain as ambitious as I want to be because I'm with someone who's equally ambitious. And every man is different, and every man is looking for something different. But don't ever feel that you can't be a whole you and meet a whole nother person and y'all be whole together. Because broken people being in a relationship doesn't yield a whole healthy relationship. And that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother session. But, I just really want to encourage, single women who are looking to be married to live their life in singlehood to the max, be as happy as you can be, because somewhere down that path, down that journey, you may meet the guy for you. And the person who you're holding up next to your checklist may not be the one. The person who you're, overlooking because they don't meet every single criteria on your checklist, maybe someone who you just never knew that person would really love you through it all. And I think that's what it is. You can't look for someone who's just going to fit into a checklist, because things will never stay the same. If my husband looked at me for a checklist and then, a year and a half in, I wasn't working, we were having a baby. All these things happened so quickly, which wasn't, if he was just on a checklist, we were like, okay, this is not what I signed up for. And that's why a lot of times people get divorced, because this is what you signed up for. You signed up for someone who was doing this, doing that, doing this, and now they're not doing all those things. And now you're like, okay, this isn't for me. So be encouraged, single women. Don't ask married women. I'm going to say married. I hope you don't ask married men, but don't ask married women for their advice on being married, because we do not have the answers. We do not know. Everyone's journey is very different. They can share their story, but don't hold their story as the only truth, the only way. It's there's just a story in a way, but don't feel like it has to be that way for you. Don't be misled by your single friends and their stories of how to find a man and where to find a man and what you should be doing. And don't doubt yourself. Don't look at yourself in the mirror and say, why am I not married? Why is everyone around me married and not me? And don't put that pressure on yourself. Remain as positive as possible. Be a light and shine as bright as you can. And eventually you'll attract the one that's meant for you. So in this edition of Marriage Matters, I hope this helps someone. And I really pray that those who desire to be married, find the one that is for them. And those who are married, continue to stay married and continue to stay encouraged. And those who may be going through a tough time and thinking about divorce, I'm praying for them also. So take care and good night.